Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
On today's show, we go for a run with my co-host Sven Gustafson as he shares his thoughts on what's ahead and the coronavirus situation. And then I'll hit on a few things you should know around town. This is episode 486 of Your Daily Detroit, recorded on Friday, April 17th, 2020. I'm Jer Stays. So grab and lace up your New Balances, and let's get some fresh air.
Nearly 25 years ago, I taught myself how to run by focusing on my breathing. It was a very different time in my life. I lived alone, had no real career path, I was single with no children, and I was battling depression. When I set out to become a runner, I figured I needed to focus less on the athletic aspects than on mastering a disciplined breathing regimen. Inhale for 2 steps, exhale for 2 steps. Repeat. By focusing on my breath, I learned to run. And running, it would turn out, gradually helped me emerge from my darkness. It gave me something to actually do every day, providing some badly needed structure, goals, and endorphins. I've been thinking about this a lot lately because right now, we're all just trying to focus on the basics, taking one thing at a time to stay sane during this coronavirus spring. Disaster can do wonders for focusing the mind if you can avoid losing it to the darkness. This is virgin territory for us all, being forced to shelter in place and avoid contact with others. It's forcing us to get creative and resourceful. There's nowhere to go. We all have to make do with what we have, where we are. And some are better equipped than others. I worry about those who live alone or who struggle with mental health issues like I did. One way I find I'm coping? Gratitude. I'm thankful for my family and all this unplanned extra time I get with them, though, of course, we sometimes drive each other crazy and argue. I'm grateful for the roof over our heads. I'm doing lots of cooking. The quality of our family dinners is better than ever, now that we have all this time to prepare them. And I'm grateful to continue to have work and things that get me out of bed in the morning and keep me busy during the days. But I'm also grateful for things I see outside my 4 walls. It's springtime in Michigan. The days are getting longer and sunnier. The daffodils and forsythia are blooming. And every day the world fills in with more color. You can never underestimate the mental boost of spring after a long, gray winter, even if it has made a surprise return. Other changes, though, have nothing to do with the season. Lately, I'm struck by how many people I see out walking. Ferndale, where I live, has always been a relatively vibrant walking community. But now the numbers of people out having a stroll, because face it, what else are you going to do? Easily outnumber cars on the road. I'm seeing faces I've never seen in my neighborhood, and it's wonderful. It reminds me of what I love about living in cities. Meanwhile, traffic volume has plummeted. Woodward Avenue during rush hour looks like a Sunday morning. My street is suddenly quiet. I realize now that I used to wake up on weekdays largely from the din of commuters speeding down my block on their way to work. Now there is no rush hour, and I'm sleeping in a little later as a result. It's pretty nice. It's tempting to think that the stay-at-home order is making us all take a figurative deep breath, take stock of what we have, and reassess the way we live. Time has ground to a halt. It feels like a longer version of Christmas break, without all the hectic family dinners and the mania of gift shopping, and with an undetermined endpoint. But I think it's giving everyone a new perspective on life and how we live it. Now that everyone's mastering Zoom, do we really need to go to an office or physical workplace each day? Or are we too obsessed with productivity? Does it make sense to continue working ourselves to the bone? Does our economic system really even work anymore? Why do devastating recessions keep happening every 10 years? Why are we always so busy running around? Do you really miss driving? Isn't it nice to walk or ride bikes again? Doesn't this shutdown show us that we actually can make sacrifices to mitigate climate change? What's really important in the grand scheme of things? The air smells sweeter lately. Photos show Los Angeles suddenly free of smog, looking better than ever. Friends tell me they suddenly notice birds. So many birds visiting their yards and singing. People are exercising more. Again, what else are you going to do? My sister-in-law says she's suddenly taken up running. The better, she says, to work off all the cakes and pies she's been baking. The other day, my family and I walked up to Ferndale Project to pick up some beer I ordered online. On the way back, a woman pulled up in her car and asked us,
"Did you get those from Ferndale Project? Are they doing carryout?"
Some neighbors told us they've seen a steady stream of others walking home after picking up orders there too. People are leaving blessing boxes full of personal care items in parks in Detroit, posting colorful signs of encouragement in their windows, coloring messages in chalk on sidewalks, knocking on the doors of neighbors, saying hello to each other while passing at a safe distance.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Enough, I get the point.
None of this is meant to make light of the situation. Tens of thousands of people are dying. Nationwide, 22 million people have filed for unemployment benefits, an unimaginable number. A lot of small businesses, frankly, will not survive this. There are so many looming existential questions about what comes next, and things will no doubt change in ways we can't possibly grok yet. We have to get through the health crisis before we can deal with the economic crisis, and that could well be scarier and more difficult. Predictably, a backlash is brewing and quickly picking up steam. Republicans and others are howling about the governor's stay-at-home order, with that big protest up in Lansing this week possibly making the health situation worse. People are complaining about not being able to go golfing or boating at their cottages up north. Some guy on Twitter ignited a firestorm after he visited a store and saw that he couldn't buy seeds. "How am I supposed to feed my family?" he tweeted ridiculously. Gun sales are up. Fire Fauci was trending on Twitter. President Trump has used the pandemic as an excuse to suspend enforcement of pollution laws and weaken mercury limits from coal plants. The decades-long effort to delegitimize the news media and undermine reason has made this situation far more dangerous. It's turned an already lethal coronavirus into a weapon to force radical partisan changes on a scared and vulnerable population. It's terrifying that a serious health crisis has so quickly morphed into a political cudgel. I have no idea what comes next, but calls to reopen America seem to be accelerating quickly and recklessly, without consideration of the consequences to public health and the economy itself. Let us hope saner voices can prevail. In the meantime, it seems certain that one way or another, things will never be the same from this point forward. Maybe I'm living in a bubble, but from where I sit, I see many reasons to hope that we'll make it through this and maybe even be stronger for it, and healthier, and maybe even happier, even if it takes longer. But just over the horizon, dark storm clouds are amassing, crackling with visceral energy.
Here are some things you should know today. In an appearance on ABC's Good Morning America, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer said she hopes to have some relaxing of the state's stay-at-home order on May 1st. Yesterday, it was announced that Midwestern states and Kentucky would be coordinating their response to the coronavirus threat. Some assumed that it would mean that states would open up at the same time, but that's clearly not the case, as Wisconsin, a member of the working group, has extended their stay-at-home order until May 26th. The General Motors partnership with Ventec has borne fruit, as the first 10 ventilators were delivered at the direction of FEMA to the Franciscan Health Olympia Fields in Olympia Fields, Illinois. 10 more are being shipped to a hospital in Chicago. Plus, Ford and GE now have a $336 million contract to make 50,000 ventilators through the Defense Production Act. It's a crazy time for nurses and other healthcare workers, as Beaumont has laid off at least 300 people and put their Wayne Hospital in mothballs, anticipating a second wave of coronavirus cases. While there's an intense need in some places for COVID-19 services, the rest of the medical profession has basically ground to a halt. Long term, it's those non-emergency services that hospitals made their money on, so it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out. The United States is the only industrialized nation in the world without universal health care. And then to booze news, we reported yesterday that the state of Michigan's buyback program had a deadline of this Friday. In the meantime, the state's Liquor Control Commission has extended that buyback deadline to 5 p.m. on April 24th, 2020. So a little bit more than a week from now. All right, that'll do it for your Daily Detroit. I'm Jair Stays. Take care of each other, and we'll get through this together.